This Voice Registry podcast is brought to you by VoiceBank.net. Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Pattin, and I'm here at Compost Productions at their new home in North Hollywood, California. And my guest today is improv teacher extraordinaire, Bill Applebaum. Good to have you here.
Thanks, Tracy. It's great to be here.
And this is going to be your new home, right?
It
For
is.
your classes?
Very excited about that. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's first talk about your background, because I know you've studied at Second City. I mean,
Right.
That's in Chicago.
Chicago. Yes, I started life as an actor in Chicago at Second City, and I worked on stage and trained with the people who I consider the modern founders of the form, Del Close, Bernie Solins, Joe Forsberg, Sheldon Patinkin. I was on stage and worked as a writer and actor for many, many years.
So that was at the start of your acting career, was improv?
Mostly. I started legitimate theater, and I did a show. We had to improvise a lot in the show, and the artistic director, Dennis Zacek, who's still around in Chicago, I think sort of let Second City know about me. So when I auditioned, I think they were sort of looking for it.
That just seems like it must have been an amazing time.
It was a gas. It was a lot of fun. Great learning experience.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about improv and what is the definition? How would you define improvisation?
Yeah, improvisation to me is about people trusting their gut, using their instinct and their creativity to make choices that are unusual choices. I think what's happened with improvisation is that people think it means being clever. But from my perspective, it's not about being clever. It's really about being creative, and they're two different things.
I think that is such a powerful point. And, our audience, my listeners are voice actors primarily, although some might be actors in general. And so I have always found as a voice actor myself, and taking your classes, which are fantastic, is it's so helpful for the voice actor. So speak to that. I mean, how is it a really good skill for the voice actor?
Improvisation, one of the complaints that I get from voice casting people and directors is people get in front of the microphone and they become stiff.
Yeah, right.
And they don't speak to their truth. They have an idea of what it should sound like. And what people want is what the actor can bring to them. Okay.
And so it's just being themselves.
It's being themselves.
I just read somebody sent me something about Don LaFontaine in an interview he recently did, and they asked him, and Don LaFontaine, as most people know, is the in a world trailer guy, the richest voice actor, or one of the richest ones on the planet.
Right.
And the thing he said was the one component to voice over success is honesty.
Yes.
So there you go with improv. I mean, it's all about that, right?
What is your truth? Voice actors always tell me they leave the booth and they go, I could have done this. I should have done this. Why didn't I do that? And part of what improvisation does is allow you to make those choices when they count, which is in the room. So when thoughts occur to you, you act on them as opposed to doing what you've prepared.
Right. So in your classes, I mean, have your students, you have voice actor students.
Yeah.
I know a lot of them were in the classes that I took. It seemed like a lot of people were voice actors.
A lot of voice actor people.
Do they find that this has opened them up?
A lot. They find the one comment that they come away with is, I never thought this was going to be helpful to me, but I see how helpful it has been. And there are a couple of things. Some is they can find character voices that they normally wouldn't find, which is big. And the other thing is, it allows them to bring that honesty, their truthfulness within the confines of whatever the circumstances are, to give their interpretation of what it is that makes them unique to the script that they're reading.
I mean, it's always really hard when you get a piece of copy for voice actors and have to be funny. Isn't that's just such a bizarre thing? And how does improv help being funny? I mean, how does it add to that?
It adds
skill?
to that by the funniest things happen from the most honest and truthful things.
Yes.
Del Close used to say improvisation is people reliving their worst nightmare on stage and having people laugh at it.
Yes.
Because there's a shock of recognition.
Yeah.
So the comedy comes really if you play the truth of the situation and don't try to be funny. We don't allow people to tell jokes in class. Don't try to be funny. Just be real. Be truthful. And that's what makes things funny.
So even with commercial copy, you can utilize the improv skill, right? Because, it's always sort of a mixed bag with classes, and sort of what I've heard is you can add to the copy. You just can't change the copy, but it's always better to have a button at the end.
Right, the button at the end, which is really great.
And do you work on that in your classes ever? Do you ever use copy and have people kind of try out that?
Yes, and part of what's important is to show people they have an opportunity to fail in the class.
Yes.
And to try things and to see what works and what doesn't work, so that when you come into the booth, you're fully prepared to know what will make it work. And that's generally following your instinct to respond how you feel, as opposed people will oftentimes go, oh, well, I'm not sure that's appropriate. Well, if you think of it, if it's coming from your creative self, then it is appropriate. It may not book you the job every time, honestly, but you'll be remembered for somebody who makes interesting choices.
Excellent point, everybody. Listen to that. That is such a good point, because I think it's so important, and I know with my career and talking to other voice actors, is to not try to second guess what the client wants.
Exactly.
And bring yourself to the copy.
The client wants you to show them your interpretation of it.
And Bill, why is that so hard for us?
It's so difficult.
For me, it's like, why can't I just do that?
We all think we have to give them what they're looking for, but they don't know what they're looking for. We all have our own life experience. And if we can bring our life experience to the copy, we're going to have something unique. If you get 20 people auditioning and 15 of them give a nice interpretation of the same
sort of the correct
read.
Yeah.
Well, these are not people who are going to book the job. The people who are going to book the job are one of the other 5 who maybe have had some improv training, that know that it's their interpretation that's unique and different. It's not what it should be. It's how I view it. You bring yourself and what your experience is to the copy, you'll book the job.
So how, in your classes as a teacher, and you're a voice actor also, right? You do a lot of different acting on camera.
Voice, on camera, on stage.
Yeah,
film.
Alka-Seltzer you just did. Tell everybody. How, in your classes, do you help people to get to that point? Because it is a little nebulous. It's not this black and white, okay, if you do this in the class, you'll get that.
Right.
So how does that happen?
Look, improvisation is a process.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think a lot of people don't understand. They think you improvise in a void. You just go in and wing it. That's not true.
Okay.
There's structure to improvisation. There are some basic rules.
Okay.
And so we teach the rules, the basic structure. And once you understand that, then you can break out of that structure and break the rules.
So what are some of the rules? Just give us an example.
The first rule, obviously, is don't deny. If somebody says something, that's right. You and. You accept what's given and add to it.
You go with it, especially, so that would pertain to dialogue spots especially.
Correct.
That you go with it.
Correct. You justify.
Okay.
Whatever somebody says on stage. So then, you're creating a positive energy from that. If somebody says something, it's never a mistake. You take it and turn it into a positive, and then it becomes something unexpected again.
So what happens when actors in your class or students in your class have breakthroughs? What happens? What is that like for people?
Well, they just go, they have these aha moments.
Because I know I've had some in your class, and it's such a great feeling.
It is terrific. And suddenly I can see that they get it. We talk about it, and then the light bulbs go off, and they get it, and they never again do what was holding them back. And from that moment forward, they find a certain freedom to express themselves in ways they actually trust their instinct. They trust their own creativity.
And how great is that for a life skill?
Oh, it's huge. It's
huge.
I mean,
we all need to have that as a life skill. This has been part 1 of my interview with Bill Applebaum. Join me next time for part 2. This Voice Registry podcast was brought to you by VoiceBank.net.